car owners are asking for a twofold reduction in excise taxes on gasoline and diesel. This may make fuel at the gas station cheaper, but will lead to serious losses for road funds. The National Automobile Union, U.S., unites manufacturers of automotive components and car owners, has asked the Ministry of Finance to temporarily reduce the excise tax on motor fuel. I ask you to consider the possibility of reducing excise rates on gasoline and diesel fuel for the period from June 1 to December 31, 2022 inclusive by 50% to $6,896 for 1 ton of gasoline and $4,778 for 1 ton of diesel fuel, writes the President of U.S. Anton Shaparin. He proposes to cover the falling federal budget revenues from excise taxes from other sources, without specifying which ones. The reduction of the excise tax, according to Shaparin, could lower real fuel prices for consumers, encourage car. He proposes to cover the falling federal budget revenues from excise taxes from other sources, without specifying which ones. The reduction of the excise tax, according to Shaparin, could lower real fuel prices for consumers, encourage car owners to increase the number of trips, support tourist flows, reduce the cost of transport costs in the price of goods, thereby stimulating economic growth and curbing inflation. The issue of reducing excise taxes on fuel in the spring has already been raised at the level of the Russian government. According to Oleg Sokolov, secretary of the Federation of Independent Trade Unions of Russia, FNPR, trade unions came up with this idea back in March 2022 at a meeting of the Russian Trilateral Commission. RTK, on the regulation of social and labor relations, headed by Deputy Prime Minister Tatyana Golikova. This proposal was also included in the resolution of the General Council of the FNPR, which is a guide for trade unions during negotiations within the framework of the RTK. Sokolov added to Vedomosti. The letter of the Automobile Union to the Ministry of Finance, citing data from the Petro Market Research Group, states that for the first 2 decades of April, the average daily export of gasoline from the Russian Federation amounted to 10,600 tons, which is more than 20% lower than in March. The letter from U.S. emphasizes that against the background of a decline in exports for the same period in April 2022, the average selling prices of Russian refineries for gasoline of the most popular brands AI-92 and AI-95 decreased by 10.3% and 8.5%, relative to the end of March. At the same time, there is no real price reduction for car owners. The cost of summer diesel fuel at gas stations in the period from April 14 to 21 decreased by an average of 2 kopecks per liter after 3 weeks of growth, and retail gasoline prices almost do not change, Shaparin points out. According to Rosstat, in March, a decrease in consumer, retail, prices for gasoline by 0.2% or more was noted in 32 subjects of the Russian Federation. It fell most noticeably in the Kirov region and Tuva, by 2% and 1.9%, respectively. In 11 regions, it has risen in price, most of all in Adygea, by 2.1%. At the same time, manufacturers reduced gasoline prices in March compared to February by 15.7%, according to Rosstat data. As a result, consumer gasoline prices in March on average in Russia exceeded producer prices by 2.7 times. The cost of a ton of AI-92 on the SPB-MTSB exchange decreased from March 31 to May 5 from 43,670 to 40,000 rubles. AI-95 gasoline fell from 47,905 to 43,270 rubles, and summer diesel fuel rose from 53,175 to 55,439 rubles, follows from the auction data. In 2021, excise taxes on petroleum products were credited according to the standard of 25.1% to the federal budget, 74.9% to the budgets of the subjects. The press service of the Ministry of Finance did not explain to Vedomosti how they will be distributed this year and the amount of possible loss of income. The representative of the department only stated that the proposal of U.S. will be considered in due course. According to Petro Market Project Manager Anna Lishnevitskaya, if the demand for motor fuels in June-December 2022 remains at the level of the same period in 2021, then the falling budget revenues from a 50% reduction in excise taxes will amount to about 270 billion rubles. Now the excise tax takes 24-26% in the retail price of gasoline, depending on the brand, and 18% in the price of diesel fuel at the gas station. Reducing excise taxes by half can provide cheaper fuel in retail, all other things being equal, by about 10%, she added. Vice President of the Independent Fuel Union, unites small gas stations that do not belong to oil companies. Dmitry Gusov confirms that there will be no immediate drop in prices at gas stations following the reduction in excise taxes. In previous periods, with a sharp increase in prices in wholesale, independent gas stations traded almost at zero or at a loss. Therefore, it is possible to demand from them to reduce the cost of gasoline and diesel in proportion to the drop in wholesale prices only if the principle of inflation minus is abolished. It provides for the containment of prices at gas stations not higher than the level of official inflation. Vedomosti, he said. Gusov also recalled that road funds are being filled at the expense of excise taxes on motor fuel, for which alternative sources of funds will have to be found.